Hello and welcome to TLC's and Next Updates. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. What we're about to share is emotional, powerful, and unforgettable. As season 19 of Sister Wives concluded, the whole Brown family convened in Wyoming to bid their last farewell to Garrison Brown, the much-loved son of Janelle and Kody Brown. Garrison's suicide in March 2024 left a dark cloud over the family, and the season finale caught the poignant moment they buried him among his grandparents. The audience saw Kody, in a very emotional gesture, dig his son's grave. Pain was etched on all the faces. In spite of all the years of strain and polarization, the Browns united, grieving together. For the first time in a long time, it wasn't about right or wrong. It was about respecting a life lost too early. But more than grieving occurred. Amidst all this grief, a new dialogue opened up, one of healing. Some of the relatives started thinking of leaving old grudges behind. Madison Brush, Janelle and Kody's daughter, talked about how she wanted to reconnect and apologize to Robyn Brown's kids. Wyoming was not randomly selected as the final resting place for Garrison. Janelle stated that the state was significant to both her and Kody. It was a location that Garrison adored, and one that had the family's history associated with it. She continued, "The Browns have deep roots in Wyoming," as the family formed a circle around the grave of Garrison, saying their goodbyes. One of the most emotional moments was when Janelle carried the urn containing Garrison's remains and tenderly handed it over to Kody. "Despite we've had our conflicts," she said, "in that moment, we were just parents." The moment was still, painful, and meaningful. As Kody buried the urn, the silence spoke volumes more than words ever would. After the funeral, Madison opened up during a heartfelt conversation with Leon Brown. She admitted feeling anger toward her father, but also expressed a wish to move forward. "I'm still figuring out how to do that," she said. "I'm sad for him. I'm sad for Robyn's kids. If I've ever hurt them, I'm sorry." Her words showed that even through pain, there was a desire for reconciliation. There has long been tension between Robyn's kids, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, and the other Brown children, especially Christine and Janelle's. Most people think that this chasm originated from the idea that Kody focused more on Robyn's children, and others felt left out. However, Robyn's kids have also expressed feeling left out of the big family. Despite these complicated dynamics, Janelle shared that something shifted after Garrison's death. She admitted that while things with Kody remain unresolved, many of the children have started to reconnect. "Garrison's death has been devastating," she said, "but it brought the siblings back together in some ways. We're here because of something tragic, but we're also making a new memory, one where we're all together again." Kody also opened up his side of it in a moment of candor. He admitted that even though he and Janelle were not on good terms, he requested permission from her to dig Garrison's grave. "She was fine with it. I'm grateful that she realized how much this meant to me," Kody said. "This trip has been tough. We haven't been talking. But she was nice to me, and I needed it." Garrison and Kody weren't even speaking before Garrison died. But then in the end, it turned out that Kody did find a way to be there, to be present in the way a father should, even if it was too late. This devastating conclusion to season 19 reduced viewers to tears, but provided a glimpse of hope that is hard to come by. From great loss, the Brown family set out on a journey toward reconciliation. One step, one apology, one memory at a time. In an emotional interview in September 2024, Kody Brown reminisced about the estranged relationship he shared with his son Garrison prior to his fatal accident. He confessed they hardly spoke and tended to think they had more time to reconnect. Kody explained they would send each other a few texts here and there, but both had busy lives. He thought they'd catch up eventually when the time was right. In hindsight, he saw how mistaken he was. He wished they had found more time to talk and be together more often. Kody regretted the lost time with Garrison. He wished he could have had one last dinner with his son, to sit down and have a drink with him, to share a joke. Garrison could always make people laugh, and Kody aches for that. His greatest regret is that he didn't spend more time with him when he could have. The interaction between Kody and his daughter Madison also continues to be tense. Despite Madison having expressed interest in reconnecting with Robyn's children, she still remains distant from her father. In the season premiere, it was revealed by Janelle that Madison and Kody haven't talked. Neither has contacted the other, and Madison has also not spoken to Robyn. Janelle says one reason is the fact that Kody has not been involved with Madison's children. Madison believes that if Kody cannot be consistent in their lives, then she does not want him involved whatsoever. Madison elaborated on the decision more during an episode of her podcast in November of 2024. She stated that Kody tends to disregard boundaries and wants individuals to live by his terms. She no longer wishes to be part of it. She explained how he would become angry when she was truthful with him, and eventually she chose to stop speaking with him. Madison also spoke about individuals who tell her to forgive her father, explaining that not everybody knows what her experience has been. She explained that although some people have a good relationship with their parents, not everybody does, and some individuals just don't deserve to be in your life. The controversy was further fueled after the broadcast of Garrison's funeral show. As the family had converged on Wyoming to bury Garrison, viewers were angered at the way Kody and Robyn conducted themselves during the journey. What would have been a somber, dignified time of mourning appeared to be morphing into a relaxed family holiday. Fans watched Kody and Robyn have an ice cream date and sightsee, which they even posted on social media. A lot of the fans thought it was extremely inappropriate and disrespectful. The reaction was severe, with viewers accusing Kody of insensitivity. Many described how he seemed to be more concerned about image than actually grieving his son. This went further to fuel the long-running criticism that Kody was more invested in Robyn's family than the other kids. Kody's relationships with the majority of his children have been seriously compromised, particularly following the COVID-19 pandemic. Garrison had previously attempted to reconnect with his dad, but Kody did not reciprocate. Now that Garrison is gone, Kody is full of regret. He's dealing with unfinished emotions and the bitter knowledge that he has lost his opportunity to restore peace between them. On a recent episode of Sister Wives, the Brown family finally spoke about the devastating loss of Garrison Brown. Years after the tragic death, the family felt it was time to bury him in Wyoming, a place that Garrison and his parents, Janelle and Kody, held dear to their hearts. It was a choice that awakened sorrow, remorse, and bitter memories, but also presented an opening onto what is left of this broken family. Janelle, tearful but calm, was thankful the family was able to gather for such a sad event. To her, burying Garrison in Wyoming wasn't an option. It was a tribute to the kid who once discovered happiness and home within those same mountains. She stood in the cold wind, clutching the urn that held her son's ashes, and passed it to her ex-husband, Kody. In that one moment of intense emotion, all the acrimony of divorce and history dissipated. "We weren't exes in that moment," Janelle would say later. "We were two parents saying goodbye." But under the grief, drama fermented. As Janelle grieved in silence and held her son in memory, Kody seemed to confuse mourning with hedonism. Though he cried and professed that he wanted to memorialize Garrison, his behavior spoke otherwise. Kody took his present wife, Robyn, and their children with him to Wyoming and made the journey into what so many perceived as a family vacation. Images of the family taking an ice cream break, holding paws, going sightseeing, and even watching a Wild West show surfaced on social media. Fans were left infuriated. Who makes his son's funeral a holiday? One person on X, formerly Twitter, wondered incredulously. He didn't speak with his son for the past 5 years, and now he is making this about himself. Others deemed it disrespectful, selfish, even performative. And although Kody attempted to put on a show of grieving, many weren't buying it. To viewers, the man who had boasted about being united had become the epitome of insincerity. Even among the family, there were raised eyebrows. The disparity between Kody's carefree public life and Janelle's silent heartbreak was stark. While she mourned the loss of her son, Kody was off creating memories with his other family. To some, it was the ultimate seal that the rift between Kody and several of his children had become unbridgeable. Nevertheless, the episode wasn't wholly about division. Underneath the sorrow, there were glimmers of reconciliation, particularly between the siblings. Garrison's death, as tragic as it was, appeared to thaw a little of the emotional ice that had formed over the family for decades. Madison, Garrison's sister, broke open about her hurt and acknowledged her anger towards Kody. But in a courageous discussion with her cousin Leon, she showed something more profound: the need to choose peace. "I'm angry," Madison admitted. But I can choose how I react. I have the power to break the cycle. Perhaps the most astonishing and uplifting moment came when Madison indicated she wished to apologize to Robyn's children. Children who, for years, had been viewed more as strangers than siblings. "If I ever hurt you, I'm sorry," she spoke softly, without theatrics or accusation. It was a moment of grace, and one that reminded viewers that healing doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a quiet truth. Kody, likewise, thought about what he'd lost. He conceded in an earlier interview that he hadn't called Garrison much over the last few years, always thinking that they'd make up when the moment was right. But the time wasn't there. "We thought we had forever," he explained with remorse. Nowadays, he wishes he'd make that call more frequently. He wishes for one final dinner, one last laugh, one last chance to be a dad. The finale of this season didn't provide a tidy ending. It didn't neatly wrap up the family's suffering, but it did provide something that was just as potent, an insight into reality. A mother's love, a father's regret, a sister's unassuming courage, and a fractured family attempting, however clumsily, to show up for each other, if only for one tearful day. The sister wives family has never been simple, but nothing exposes the fissures of a family like sorrow. And in the aftermath of Garrison Brown's heartbreaking death, those fissures are more difficult than ever to overlook. For years, Robyn's older children from her first marriage felt like outsiders, shut out from the rest of the Brown clan. Regardless of whether it was genuine or perceived, favoritism caused deep scars. But when death became an issue, even simmering resentment started to ease. Janelle, Garrison's mom, summed it up plain but eloquently. "His death has been crushing, but somehow it opened space for bonding between siblings who had drifted apart." Kody, on the other hand, grappled with regret. In interviews, he acknowledged the gradual disintegration of his relationship with Garrison, missed calls, unreturned messages, the belief that there would always be time. "I thought we had forever," he acknowledged. "I wish I had made more time." With every sentence, the anguish in his voice was unmistakable. This wasn't about losing a son, it was about losing the opportunity to mend. But not everyone was ready to move beyond the past. Madison, Garrison's sister, still keeps her distance from Kody. Janelle put it best. "Maddie wants consistency. She wants her kids to be seen, not just visited. And Kody hasn't provided that." In public, Madison has been even blunter. She called out her father's need for control, his inability to accept boundaries, and his refusal to receive hard truths. "He didn't want honesty," she said. "He wanted loyalty, on his terms." Her words were not merely defiant. They were the voice of a person who had been ignored, misunderstood, and silenced for much too long. "People keep telling me to forgive him," she said, "but they don't know the real story. My father is not the man they imagine." The hurt behind those words was evident. This wasn't merely a family disagreement, it was years of harm surfacing. And that was, perhaps, the most tragic part of it all. Loss doesn't just remind us of who we've lost, it shows us where love was denied and where relationships were broken long before death arrived. On a recent episode of Sister Wives, tempers flared as the family went on a trip to the gusty mountains of the Northwest to honor Garrison's last requests. What was meant to be a spiritual and bonding experience became much more disturbing. Janelle, the family's longtime emotional support, was clearly overcome with sadness. Hugging a photograph of her son in her shaking hands, she described forgotten hopes, tearful nights spent crying, and an emptiness that now occupied her life. "He would make a room light up," she wept. "Now it's like the light's gone out." This was to be a time of togetherness, a farewell. But what, instead, Kody and Robyn and their kids made of the journey was something altogether different. What viewers witnessed was not grieving, but travel. Big smiles posing against picturesque backgrounds, ice cream parlors, thrill rodeos, tourist sites. For the people viewing, the disparity was jarring. Half of the family stood shrouded in mourning. The other half seemed embroiled in celebration. The internet blew up. Fans, many of whom had been supporting the Browns for more than a decade, called it disrespectful, tone-deaf, even cruel. "What kind of father turns his son's funeral into a vacation?" one fan asked. Another wrote, "You didn't speak to your son for 5 years. Now you're taking selfies on his burial trip?" It was a hard episode to watch, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Messy, painful, honest. The Browns didn't just say goodbye to a son, they revealed just how far they've drifted from each other. And so it went. Ego and detachment destroyed holy ground. On tape, the matriarch of the family, long polarized viewers, attempted to display remorse. He expressed regretted opportunities, his eyes brimming with tears. He stated that he wished he could turn back, undo the growing divide between him and his son. But few believed it. Even with heavy words, action spoke otherwise. Throughout the years, his bonds with the children from outside his preferred home have dissolved. There was even a time when Garrison was the very son they had come to bury that he attempted to make amends. He reached out, but he was rewarded with silence, avoidance, coldness. And now the father torments himself with the ghosts of possibilities. But rather than confront that grief, he appeared to divert himself with ice cream, scripted laughter, and forced smiles before the camera. To a lot of people, it seemed he was rewriting history in the moment, creating a tale of paternal devotion that simply hadn't happened when it needed to. And perhaps the most heartbreaking comparison of all? His ex-partner, Garrison's mother, huddled in upon herself, shattered by sorrow. While she wept alongside their son's grave, he was standing beside carriages and grinning with actors in costume. The chasm between them wasn't emotional, it was tangible, jarring, nearly impassable. Online viewers were swift to respond. This was no tribute, it was a holiday. One viewer wrote, "He neglected his son for years, and now he's expecting sympathy? Unbelievable." The backlash has been building. This couple has been criticized for years over favoritism, emotional detachment, and selfish decisions. But this hit differently. It felt like a betrayal, not only of Janelle, but of Garrison's memory. The memorial itself was brief, subdued, and excruciatingly candid. No orations, no theatrics, only wind, soft prayers, and a shattered family in stunned silence. For others, that very moment meant more to them than anything that preceded or followed it. Still, for Janelle, the loss lingered, profound, all-consuming, and brutally visceral. This wasn't acting. This was a mother laying her child in the ground. Then things got weird. At the lodge, things changed. There were meals to share, board games to play, conversations drifted around, but never settled on the boy they had just buried. It was more of a family vacation than a memorial. The patriarch laughed, held hands with his wife, and appeared comfortable, while others sat weighted by the reality of what had just occurred. Now, some family members are quietly stepping back. The fractures we've seen hinted at for years, they're out in the open now. Tensions are rising. Even the grandmother who raised Garrison has pulled away, finding comfort only in those who understand her grief without needing it explained. And through all of this, fans are left wondering, what does accountability look like when facing loss? Can one be happy and grieving simultaneously? And when your behavior contradicts, can your grieving still be authentic? This might be more than merely another installment of Sister Wives. It might be the turning point, a moment in which reality finally surfaces in the midst of performance. Because if mourning accomplishes anything, it exposes. And what we witnessed was alienation, stark against the background of heartache. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for daily updates, because the truth is still being uncovered. See you soon.